Boruto episodes 110 and 111, The Resurrection of Hot Springs and Mirai's King. As you guys can see, I finally have a freaking Naruto hat. Of course, I went with the Akatsuki. It was mostly just the fact that the other hat was the one that had like the headband, but it was like that fake like plastic headband, so it was super reflective, and I was like, nah, I just didn't want it. So got the Akatsuki hat, plus it fits better. It's just the red and black and white fits with way more stuff than like a headband with silver on it. But these two episodes were good. They were finally the end of the like Hot Springs secret mission Ninja Scroll arc, whatever the heck the super full long name was. And they were good. They were two good episodes. It was actually like the perfect two episodes to actually like watch together compared to all the other ones where they seemingly were just like, you know, one little filler episode here and there. And these last two actually went together. So I was very excited about that. Of course, the reason these reviews are late is because of E3. So anyone who wasn't familiar with that, that's like the biggest gaming convention of the year. So the whole week, I was just like, it was all E3. So I watched both these episodes back to back. And fortunately, with them being the last two, it actually made sense to actually do the reviews together for these. But I actually enjoyed them. They were good. Like, simply put, they were entertaining to watch. The second one, definitely more so than the first one, because the first one was the lead-in to the final episode of this, you know, mini filler arc with Mirai's character. But it was still entertaining. It was like, all right, you know, they sneak out in the middle of the night, and you have these two characters. You have Mirai, and I didn't even bother with the little girl, but the two characters, you know, they end up going to the hot springs. And of course, as soon as they were there, I was like, this is suspicious. This is super weird. The random person that's spying on him is like, hey, you head to the hot springs? They're like, sure. And so I was like, I'll lead you there. All right, well, I'm off. And I'm like, okay, that's super weird. And then they go in, and it's like 18 other girls. It's like, yeah, they said they needed like 20 of us for this ceremony. And I was like, okay, extra suspicious. And so then, of course, this random dude comes out. It's like, all you have to do is put on this cloak, go off into the steam, and you'll see your loved ones. And so everyone kind of, at first I thought it was genjutsu. I didn't think that it was poison gas or, you know, whatever it was that they said. But I was like, okay, I just thought it was the guy himself. They showed the ring. I totally didn't remember. I didn't realize that was them referencing like the Jashin, you know, religion and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, okay, that was pretty cool, because it's been so long. That little symbol, it was literally like a circle and a triangle. That just didn't hit me at all. But it was cool, and I was like, all right. So they reveal that, you know, he's a part of the Jashin and, you know, Hidan and all that stuff, and I was like, oh, this is really good. It's super cool, and it made me think, like, man, how cool would it be if they did like a full arc where it was them fighting against people that were trying to do that, you know, follow that religion and become immortal and stuff like that. I thought that would just be a super cool season for a show, or well, specifically for the Naruto universe. But you know, they introduced it there, and it's, you know, of course it gets to the very end, and I was like, oh man, they're, you know, about to get into it, because Mirai is like, oh, and now I know you're faking it, because she brings up like the fake shogi player and stuff like that. And I was like, this is pretty cool. Have a little, you know, some flashbacks here and there. They have the stuff with Mirai actually reading exactly what happened to her father, reading the report of how he died and stuff like that. And I was like, these are some good episodes. And then, you know, they continue on in the second episode with Kakashi and Guy showing up, and I was like, well, that's weird. They just, you know, I mean, they're ninjas, so they were probably like, oh, they're gone, and they were able to track them down. But it turns out that they were on, like, the whole time, this was a super secret above S-rank mission. And I was like, that's kind of funny. It was super funny, but it was really cool. You know, once everything was all said and done, it was like, yeah, this is what we were doing the whole time. So I thought that was actually pretty great. But during the time where they were still in the cave, you know, Kakashi and Guy show up. I would have loved a bit more action, because admittedly, I was like, okay, you got the one guy, and I was like, you know, they have to do it where Mirai takes this guy down, because, you know, it's somewhat repeating things, you know, from the past, where you have someone who's following the Jashin order, and they may or may not kill a Sarutobi. So I was like, of course, it makes sense. They have to have her, you know, stop the guy, which for a second I thought they were stopping it when, like, Kakashi and Guy first showed up. I was like, oh, well, that sucks, because, like, they came in and saved her, and she doesn't get to have her own big moment. But she does. Like, they stay with the girls, and then she takes off after the guy. But I was like, man, he's got, like, a couple little minions here and there. I would have loved to see, you know, Kakashi just toss some purple lightning and destroy some people. But sadly, we don't really get that. It's just Mirai fighting this dude. And it was cool. I actually liked it. You know, she goes into, like, the little temple area, and he's got like bolts shooting out of the walls and stuff like that, which now that I really think about it, is like, what purpose did that have? Like, I guess it was always meant to be that sanctuary. I guess he didn't technically make that, but if he did, it's weird. But I don't know, maybe they all would have walked in and just shot him up. I don't know, it doesn't matter. But they go through their fight and stuff like that, and then of course Mirai hits him with the genjutsu, and he believes that he cut her, and he, you know, stabs her and stuff. So I thought that was pretty cool, and it's like, you know, surprise, you've been hit with the genjutsu, and then I thought he was gonna die, which admittedly I think would have been kind of cool. But I thought he was definitely gonna get killed when he's like, "No, this is the genjutsu. Like, I actually succeeded, and I'm immortal now." And he was going in, and he like does whatever he does to activate like the walls, and he has needles like the spikes coming in from all sides. And I was like, "What if she's able to get out of the way?" But because he's not trying to, he'll just get impaled and he gets killed. Like, he dies from his own religion. I thought that would have been a really cool way to end it. But I guess technically that also would have been super dark to have him get like stabbed and stuff. And this is not, this is kind of starting things over. It's more kid like, so they probably wouldn't have been able to get that one past him. But I thought that would have been cool if like that was how the guy died. But instead we have Mirai. It was still a really cool way to do it, where Mirai actually uses I forgot the name of the technique, but I was like, it was super cool. And she does like a wind technique and just blows all the needles away and stuff, and like sends him flying into the wall. And I was like, that looks super cool. And like the chakra is like shooting out of the bottom of the blades and stuff, and she just does like one insane punch. And of course, both Kakashi and Guy actually see like Asuma's figure kind of emanating over her. And I thought that was cool. I was like, this is a really sweet moment. So I love that we got to see that. I was still hoping, unfortunately this is the end, but I was still hoping the whole time that they were going to somehow infuse like genjutsu into the chakra blades. Like, I didn't know how that could work, but I was like, man, what if she like infused it with her chakra and she like cut him or something? And that was, it would have been like almost a play on the curse thing, where instead of him cutting her and controlling her, she like does one cut on him, and he's like, that's not going to do anything. But after that cut, that's when he gets, he's caught in the genjutsu or something. So I think that would have been a really cool way to like mirror their abilities. But sadly, that's not what happened. She just hit him with a normal genjutsu. But it was still cool. I still really enjoyed it. The little girl ends up just kind of going on her way by herself, I guess. I'm sure she'll be fine. And then they head back to the village, and that's when Kakashi and Guy said like, no, this is what we were actually doing the whole time. It was trying to figure out where these scrolls were, like why they were disappearing. And it turns out that the random appearances and filler episodes were actually a part of the mission, where it was like, okay, we're gonna have you guys go out, send Kiba to the city because they have the festival just as a normal tourist, have Tenten just randomly show up at the hot springs, have Choji show up at the other hot springs, to move the boulder and stuff. Just everyone's just there as tourists, like, oh, I'm just kind of in the area doing this thing. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. It didn't make those episodes any better, just saying, but it still made it kind of cool. It was like, oh, it wasn't just like random coincidence that they were running into people. It was like, nope, this actually all makes sense in the end. So I was like, that's kind of cool. I like that element. Like I said, it doesn't make those individual episodes any better or any cooler in any way, shape, or form. But as a whole, it does make it a bit more entertaining. It's like, oh, it really was something important the whole time. It really was that secret above S-rank mission that Mirai actually thought it was. And they even call her out, which I thought was great. It was like, if we told you, you would have just been like a hound dog, like looking for enemies, in every single thing. She's like, no, I wouldn't. Yes, I would. And it was just kind of funny. It was like a cool moment for her character where it's like, yeah, I can admit that. I definitely would have, because that's exactly what she was doing in that first episode. Everything was like, hold on, like, watch out, don't do this, don't do that. So they knew right off the top, like, yeah, we can't tell her this is a real mission, because otherwise she'll be doing this 100% of the time and kind of getting us busted pretty much. So I like that element. And like I said, I like these last two episodes. Would like to have seen, like I said, just a little bit more action. Would love to have seen Kakashi fight, just in general. I thought that would have been sweet. But sadly, we don't really get that. And I would like to have seen Mirai fight a little bit more. But I know pretty much any character, mostly it's Mirai and Kurenai anyway. But typically with characters that focus more on genjutsu, we don't tend to see them do a lot of hand-to-hand stuff. I'd say Shikamaru is kind of in that vein with the shadow possession, because he doesn't technically go hand-to-hand. So it's kind of that same element where it's a distance thing. It's just visually, it's more entertaining with his character because you see the shadows actually move. And as far as the genjutsu stuff, it's just like, whatever cool fake stuff they make up, we get to see. And then it's just like, yeah, you just been standing still the whole time. But either way, still entertaining. I was surprised by them including that in the last two episodes, with this whole element of, her having to take down this guy who's a part of, the same religion that basically killed her father. So I thought that was cool. I like that element of it. I thought it was pretty entertaining. Really, the main thing is just I would have liked to have seen more action in the last episode, especially with it being the last one. I feel like they should have done it up a little more, even if it wasn't Mirai specifically. But if I'm not mistaken, like, they have it where Kakashi and Guy are beating up people on the way in. Like, you hear them beating people up, and then they like kick the door open. And I was like, man, I wish we could see them do a little bit more action. But instead, we just get Mirai mostly jumping around. Like we don't really get to see much action outside of her kind of dodging and stuff, and then when she does like the crazy hit at the end. So always want to see more cool action and stuff like that. But it was still entertaining. It was definitely like these were without a doubt the best two episodes. Well, it's hard to say. I actually really did enjoy the very first one because it was so funny with Kakashi and stuff like that. So it's hard to say. Like maybe the very last episode would be like the number one, and then the very first would be like number two, and then the episode or 110 I would say was like the third best episode out of. I guess these were 6 episodes we had. We had the Kiba, 1010, Choji, the very first episode, yeah, and these last 2. So out of 6 episodes, I like 3 of them. Because I mentioned before, the 1010 one was super dumb. The Choji one was just meh. And then the Kiba one I thought was also really meh. But the ending was cool because they have like, she does like the genjutsu with like the giant flaming dragon. So the visuals were sweet. And it was funny with Guy freaking out and like drop kicking a demon. So it had a funny ending at least. But yeah, the arc was not that great. 3 episodes are good, 3 episodes are bad, and I felt they could have done so much more. It was a lot like the last arc. I was like, there's so much in this. You got curse mark stuff going on in the last arc, and then in this one you have a character whose father died, which obviously technically a lot of the series is about that for a bunch of characters when you think about it. But it was a different element to it, and it was like they could do so much with this character, and I felt like they just didn't touch on it enough. They spent so much time with the sort of just 1 a week type episodes. Like they didn't really string together well enough. Like it'd be like one episode would talk a lot about Mirai, like when Choji was there, it was like, yeah, this is what your dad used to be like, and this is how he was. And then of course the last 2 were more related to like somewhat avenging him, which I thought was totally fine. But then there are other episodes like the one where they were in the hot springs and it was like haunted. They had like one scene where she's like, if ghosts are real, why didn't my dad see me? Love that scene. Like that, just that one line I still thought was fantastic for like this whole little arc. That one line I thought was great. And it was just like, there's so much stuff, there's so much content just like that they could have put in, and I just felt like they didn't. They have one cool line here, a couple of minutes there, or like they say some random stuff about Asuma, but it never seems to really go that far because it was always just like, yeah, your dad was like this, and it's like, really, I didn't know that because I always thought I was more like my mom. And it was just stuff like that where I was like, man, it seems so one note when it revolves around a character who never knew one of her parents. And it's just like, how do you make that one note? Like, that's how it felt. It was just one note stuff. And there's so many things in the ninja world, like him dying. They didn't even touch on him being resurrected before, which I thought was really interesting. Like, they mentioned the Edo Tensei, but they don't actually have that come up as a part of her character. But I was like, man, that's something that I think would have been a really big deal too. Like, even, especially, well, obviously, if he actually came back to life and they did that, that would have been really cool. But they did it once. I think this is one of the rare cases you could like do an Edo Tensei on the same character twice and it works because the mental element of it was war, and in this element it's like he's fighting his own daughter. So like there's a totally different emotional spectrum to that. It actually is fairly similar, especially considering what they did when they brought Asuma back the first time against his students. In this case, it would be against his daughter, but there's just a lot of stuff they could have done. So much potential where it could have been more emotional, or even if it wasn't like emotionally sad or anything, just more meat, on the bone, like just something. And it was just like, yeah, they were treating it exactly like we saw. Like, even though the characters were technically like, oh, all of these things were a part of the mission because they were meant to be seen as just random tourists. When the episodes come off as like disconnected random tourist moments where it's like, oh, they ran into them and they ran into them and none of this stuff connects. That's what it feels like. Like, even if you string it together story-wise, that doesn't make it feel like anything extra. So, unfortunately, it was still a meh arc, all in all. I'm pretty sure this was shorter than the last one. I can't remember at this point. Like, all the episodes, it's just like, I don't know. Maybe that last arc was the exact same. Maybe it was only 6 episodes, like a 6-episode arc. Which I guess is better than what they did in the original series, where they would do like 3-episode arcs. Like, when they got to those filler seasons, it was like 1, 2, 3, new thing, 1, 2, 3. Like, it was 3 episodes every single time, and they were mostly dumb. So I don't know if it's better or worse with it being like 6 episodes for like all the mini arcs they're doing, but we'll see what happens. They're back in the village. We'll see how things end up playing out. Seemingly, they're going into some real stuff because they're doing the Chunin selection exams. Or they're at least going into who will and will not become a Chunin. So that'll lead to, of course, the next arc of things where the characters are going on, bigger, badder missions. So hopefully that actually does become a truly relevant factor because they've already technically gone through the tuning exams. And now it's like, all right, well, who actually gets to become a tuning? So I think the next episode should at least be entertaining in some regard where they have to go through the element of like, especially for Naruto, where it's like, do I promote my son to tuning? Has he earned that right? Which I think at this point he has. I mean, once you go through, he's the dude that killed an interdimensional being. It's like, all right, I guess he can be a tuning. So I think that'll be easy. They'll make it seem emotional, but it's gonna be fine. So other than that, I'm sure it'll be our main three kids. So Boruto, Satoru, and Mitsuki. I'm sure they'll be fine. I'm sure that she could show Trio. I'm pretty sure all the teams are gonna become tuning. The only ones that probably wouldn't might be Sumidi's team because she decided to leave. So they might be like, all right, well, we don't feel like they're ready. Like, I think Wasabi would be, but me personally, I can't remember the other girl's name, but the girl that cries all the time, I don't know if I'd make her a tuning. But Wasabi, I think she can handle it. Sumidi, I would have been like, sure, especially with Nue. But the other girl, in my personal opinion, like, I just don't think she's ready for, tuning exams or for, that tuning level, personally. It feels kind of harsh to think that, but I'm like, yeah, from what I've seen, I just don't know. Same with Denki. He technically doesn't do anything, so I just don't know. The kid doesn't fight. I don't know what you do with that. But either way, we'll see what happens in the next episode. I would love to know who you guys would pick and would not pick to be tuning going into this next episode and the future of the series. Which kids deserve to be tuning? Which kids have proven their worth? And in more than one situation, like on a consistent basis. Because, like, yeah, Denki is a genius kid, but he's not genius like, Shikamaru was a genius who also fought. That's not Denki. Like, we've literally never seen him do anything. Like, he's got a computer, and I don't think we've ever seen him on an actual mission. And when he is on a mission, he doesn't actually fight. So, I don't know about him. Iwabe, it's about time. Like, he's obviously failed a couple of times, but yeah, he should pass. Medley. That's a great question with him. He's somewhere in the middle there. I don't know. But we'd love to know your opinions. Who would you pick from, like, this new roster of kids? Who deserves to be tuning? Who does not deserve to be tuning? What do you think of this arc as a whole? Like I said, for my opinions, it was legitimately right down the middle. First episode was funny. The last episode was entertaining. And the one right before that was entertaining as well. I just think not as entertaining because they did spend like half the episode getting to the hot springs. And I was kind of annoyed by that. So when we finally get the cool stuff, it's like, okay, end of episode, wait till the next one. And I was like, I figured that was going to happen. So the one before the last episode where they finally get to the hot springs, it was just the whole way through. I was just like, yep, they're slowly walking through the village. They're slowly walking through the forest. They finally get there. A couple girls go in and get like, messed up in the head. Then it's like, here's the Kool-Aid and stuff. They drink the Kool-Aid and walk down this path. So I was like, okay. And then the cool stuff happens in the very next one. But still enjoyed those 3 episodes. Enjoyed parts of the one with Kiba at the end because it was just like funny with Rock Lee, or with Guy, sorry. And then the 10-10 one I hated. And the Choji one was just, I think, disappointing more than anything because I felt like they spent the most exposition in that episode with him talking about Asuma and stuff like that. They spent the most exposition there, and I still felt like we got nothing out of it. So once again, like, that's something, like I said, across the arc where I was just like, it was just so disappointing. Like, there's so much they could have done. And even when they had a full scene of exposition, they're making potato chips, and he's like, yeah, this is what your dad was like, and this, and this. And it still just felt like it was nothing to me. Like, and that's crazy. So that one I think was just straight up disappointing. But all in all, it's not a good arc, which is crazy because you focus on a totally different character. You got Kakashi and Guy. They have some cool moments. Even at the end where they talk about it, where Guy's like, it's cool. Like, me having this messed up leg meant, like, I have my best friend next to me all the time. Like, you're stuck with me. What more could I ask for? Like, you're a great dude. We're best friends. We compete still. Like, Guy was cool. So that was a cool little moment as well. But all in all, not a great arc. We'll see what happens next. But would love to know what you guys thought about it. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, your least favorite parts about it. Like I said, definitely want to know who you guys would choose to be tuning. Who would you kind of keep at the beginning level? So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.